Have you ever noticed that when you consider not telling the truth, the absolute worst case scenario could possibly happen? Well, that's what Lincoln found out in the episode I'm going to talk about today. So join me as I, SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. Cue the intro! Today's episode is The Butterfly Effect. In this episode, Lincoln accidentally destroys and tries to fix Lisa's science experiment without his sister ever finding out, but then his whole family, and world for that matter, begins spiraling out of control. This is the kind of episode that really grabs your attention the first time you watch it because you really start to question what the hell is going on. Like, there is no way any of the ensuing chaos is actually happening to the characters. But then the story swerves you with that Lois kills Stewie style ending where it turns out everything that happened took place in Lincoln's imagination and nothing crazy happened. Or I guess most of the craziness didn't happen, but I'll talk about that in just a bit. Anyway, the biggest highlights of the episode were the fallouts to what the characters went through as a result of Lincoln trying to fix Lisa's experiment without Lisa finding out, and the story really lived up to its title of Butterfly Effect when a chain reaction of events started because of the tiny problem Lincoln created. Lori gets mad at Lenny and causes her sister to suffer a head injury that makes her so incredibly smart that she actually dwarfs Lisa's intelligence, which causes her little sister to give up being a genius and drop out of school to work at Flips. This in turn caused Lynn's school grades to drop and got kicked off all the sports teams. She angrily kicks a ball in Lola's face, which breaks her nose, and the two of them run away and become outlaws. Lola's injury made Lana want to spend the rest of her life safely contained within a giant hamster ball, and Luna used all those preceding events to make a song which got so famous that Mick Swagger wanted her to go on tour with him, only to be immediately kicked out following an incident at a hotel. Luann becomes a crazy environmental activist who chains herself to a tree and liberates Lana's animals, with one of the vampire bats biting Lucy and turning her into a bat herself. And finally, Lincoln is about to get eaten by Lily, who grew to the size of their house due to being exposed to the spilled chemicals he tried to clean up in the beginning. That's when Lincoln snaps back to reality and figures all of what played out in his head could happen if he tried to fix Lisa's experiment himself. He does end up admitting to his little sister what he did, Lisa forgives him, and everything appears to be right with the world, except for one thing I still don't get. Lincoln imagined Lori breaking up with Bobby following her fight with Lenny and started dating Clyde, and yet we see Lori and Clyde are still supposedly married when Lincoln's fantasy ends. I don't know if this was done to make the audience believe that maybe a part of Lincoln's fantasy ended up becoming true, or if Lincoln was still having a fantasy. I'm not saying this was a bad moment to close out the episode because I understood the humor and why it was done, but it's definitely a head scratcher that really screws with your head, just like the rest of the story did. Overall, this episode pretty much said nothing really matters and nothing has to make sense, and that's greatly reinforced by the end when it turns out everything, or most everything, was all made up in Lincoln's head. It may be a cheap way to resolve the story by saying it was all a dream, but I still found it amusing how completely unglued Lincoln's world became because he didn't want to fess up to what he did to Lisa's experiment. You can either really love or really hate this one. As for me, I still think it's a great episode if you're looking for something very spontaneous and wacky cartoon antics being used to the fullest, while the story has a lot of fun with crazy twists and turns along the way. With that said, I give The Butterfly Effect an 8 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of The Butterfly Effect. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.